We see our sin and then we feel sorrow about our sin. In fact, sorrow in the Bible, or grief in this text, really kind of means the embitterment of the soul. And if you read how men feel the weight of their sin in the Bible, these aren't things I would recommend you to do, but Jeremiah beat his own thigh, like he punched himself in the thigh repeatedly when he became aware of his sin. Ezra pulled out his hair. All right, so again, so let's get to it today. All right, it's lab time. Yank out some hair. You've got the tax collector in Jesus' parable of the tax collector and the Pharisee who beat his breast. You got Isaiah in sackcloth and ashes. There's an embitterment of the soul that I have sinned against the living God. And so let's look in Luke chapter 7 at some of this sorrow. It's just one of my favorite stories, just to think on and look at and watch this beautiful woman here. Hard to get our mind around what's really going on here, but let's look at it. Luke chapter 7, starting in verse 36. When one of the Pharisees asked him being Jesus, to eat with him being the Pharisee, whose name is Simon or Simeon, with him, and he went into the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table, and behold, a woman of the city who was a sinner. When she learned that he was reclining at the table in the Pharisee's house, she brought an alabaster flask of ointment, and standing behind him at his feet, weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears and wiped them with the hair of her head and kissed his feet and anointed them with the ointment. Now, this woman of the city doesn't mean that she had a flat downtown. Are you tracking? All right, this woman of the city, this is a woman of ill repute, more than likely a prostitute, who hears that Jesus is at the house of this Pharisee who clearly knows who she is and who feels that she's an unclean woman, not worthy to be touching the feet of Jesus. And if we had time, you could keep reading the story and you'd find all of those pieces present. And so she's walking into this home where she has been cruelly judged, has been shown no compassion. Listen, no one when they're in third grade goes, I'd like to be a prostitute when I grow up. Certain things happen to get you to that point. All of them are gut-wrenching. And here's where this woman is. And she enters into this house where she has been shamed. She has been hard-pressed. She has been belittled and she's been pushed to the margins. But she owns her sin. She goes behind Jesus, falls at his feet, and she sobs. And we'll talk about this here in a second. But Jesus, between the dialogue with her and the Pharisees, he lifts up her face. See this woman? You have not done for me what this woman has done for me. And then he begins to attack this self-righteousness that the Pharisees walked in to extend grace. But note her sorrow. Does she have people that she can blame for her position? Probably. I can only imagine with some of the work we've done with women coming out of strip clubs and prostitution that this woman has had some legitimate hurts and has felt backed into a corner and has felt lost and hopeless. And so just a mess of a life, but she's owning it. She's owning it at his feet, sobbing. And this sorrow has to be vented. This sight that leads to this sorrow has to be vented.